what was interesting is that it was just not schools who were participating, but many restaurants who also participated. And I loved one challenge that one of the restaurants in Italy took, where they basically went on a 0 kilometer food challenge, and they basically created their menu entirely of local food that is they sourced from the vicinity and they were located.
Can you tell us a bit more about yourself, introduce yourself, your role at FEE, and maybe a bit of your role in Planets as well?
Yes. Hi, I'm Pramod Kumar Sharma. I work as Senior Director of Education at the Foundation for Environmental Education. Foundation for Environmental Education, based in Copenhagen, is a member-based organization, and we work on large programs. One of the major programs is Eco Schools, that is working in 100 countries with 54,000 schools. And another one is Young Reporters for Environment, which focuses on giving voice to young people on issues of environment and how they can change that in their communities. We also have tourism-based program, Green Key, which was also part of the Plant Eat project, and the other one is another label called Blue Flag. So we are essentially implementation-based organization implementing these programs across 100 countries.
Can you tell us a bit more about why it is key to include education in Planets and to target students, teachers, on a topic like sustainable diets?
We are celebrating our 45 years of existence. And when we look at education, we are looking at education in all forms, formal, informal, and non-formal education, just not from a school education or a formal education perspective. And next year, we'll be celebrating 50 years of environmental education. And in 1977, it was clearly agreed upon and understood that education has to play a critical role if when we are trying to transform societies to a sustainability or a sustainable consumption as such. And we know that food has one of the biggest impact on sustainability apart from health. And when we are mobilizing or changing behaviors of communities all around the world, I would say, just not in Europe, education plays a critical role. It basically helps them understand why we need to change, build the skills that are required to bring about those changes and support those behaviors, and then create a societal norm where the change that we are trying to make becomes a norm, standard practice. And education, which is a process where we start with awareness, but ultimately change the behavior through participation. This entire cycle, where attitude and skills are also important, we understand as a complete process of education.
In Planet, so you developed an education toolbox. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, our central role was translate the wisdom that was being generated by different partners of the project into knowledge to be given to the communities and to the children or young people as such. And the process that we went through was first looking at if there is a agreed learning goals on this topic or not. And we found that this was not there. And then we started development of a curricular framework which basically standardized for young people in terms of age 3 and above up to 18, that what they should know, what they should, the skills they need to have, and the behaviors that we need to develop. Because without that, having an educational resource was meaningless, because that was the way to communicate to educators, people who are developing standards, and also writing textbooks, a common understanding of what needs to be done when we are looking at food sustainability as part of Plant Eat. And based on that, we developed lesson plans that teacher can use for different age groups, and also project-based learning. Project-based learning is an important aspect because behavior change requires both depth of an intervention and the length of intervention. Without that depth and length, changes cannot be brought about. And this project-based learning was aligned to the EcoSchool 7-step project-based learning methodology so that it can be used by EcoSchool network globally in future too. Apart from that, what we also did was invite teachers to contribute lessons and through a lesson plan competition, and we got lessons across the world as such, just not from Europe. And that also helped us understand what teachers are already doing in schools as such and where the gap are. And we're also trying to understand and basically fill that gap through additional resources. And then the other thing that we did was run a competition within the Young Reporters for Environment program on the theme. And the jury is happening next week, but that also provided voices or empower young people to raise this issue within their communities, just not as problems, but also as solutions of what they can do. And in that process, created awareness about the issue at a large scale. And the other thing that we did was that is basically develop a campaign handbook using our Global Action Days campaign as a major tool. And we got almost 400,000 participants from 140 countries and who took different actions. The data is also interesting because it shows where the gaps are and what we need to continue after this project to strengthen this theme within our programs and continue to bring about the change using these resources.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. The first one is you said that you asked the feedback of teachers, for instance. What was their feedback? Were they motivated to implement this curriculum framework and toolbox?
Interesting question. I think that all our resources that were developed were validated by the network as such. So the curriculum framework was validated by experts who are within the education and also teachers, because it is important to know whether they will be able to take it to the classroom or not. As experts, as people sitting in an office, we might think that this might be possible in most contexts, but there is such a strong cultural and social element and economic element when you're talking about food. We need to check whether that is feasible in different parts of the Europe or the member countries that we are implementing it, and whether through and in different socio-economic conditions also apart from the cultural conditions that we were in. And we got good feedback on messaging, what we need to change, even in terms of terminologies or jargon that we were using, and that helped us resources that we feel are robust enough to be used in most contexts as such, which was not a plan, but we realized that we have to also develop simple scientific science-based fact sheet for teachers to supplement these resources. And then that was also undertaken as a action research part where we develop fact sheet to help teachers understand basic concepts which are there as part of food and sustainability and health as a concept.
And can you tell us a bit more about the Global Action Days?
So Global Action Days is a fee campaign that we run in April every year around the Earth Day. And the idea is to mobilize the community that we work with and beyond our network too on raising awareness around critical issues. And this year we took food as a critical element on basically as a climate action. And we suggested 5 actions that range from including more vegetables and fruits in the diets, alternative proteins compared to meat proteins in terms of plant-based proteins, and then looking at labels and finding more sustainable and healthy food. And how do you read labels in terms of like ultra-processed food and things like that. What was interesting is that it was just not schools who were participating, but many restaurants who also participated. And I loved one challenge that one of the restaurants in Italy took, where they basically went on a 0-kilometer food challenge. And they basically created their menu entirely of local food that they sourced from the vicinity and they were located. And that shows that how campaigns can be also tools and create a community of people who are taking actions on this aspect.
Thank you very much. And maybe a final question. You mentioned that Planet would be helpful for your future actions at FEE, and that you had ideas for future actions. Could you tell us more about what you would like to do after Planet on this topic?
So all the resources will be part of our programs. So FEE, as I said, is not a project-based organization, it's a program-based organization. And this project has contributed in strengthening the theme. We have around 15 themes, and food is also a theme on which our network works. And so these resources will continue to be used. What now, which was also part of the idea, but now what we are doing is to develop a basic course on understanding food and sustainability. As such, will be offered on our Moodle-based platform called Fee Academy. And then what also we are doing is that products that we got, for example, from the YRE competition, Young Reporters for Environment competition, we'll be sharing as examples for future competition too. So it will continue to inspire young people to take and explore this theme, and how or what actions can be taken within their communities as such, and you use their voice to raise more awareness. So it's like a cascading model that it has just snowballed into something that will continue as an integral part of our programs.
That's great. Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you.